we continue with this notion of prayer bringing greater refinement or greater change in this world versus mitzvahs versus Torah. And now we're getting into some challenging Kabbalistic ideas. So, where the commandments come from? So in one place it says, from the 10 spheres of Zoh of Atzilus. In Eitz Chaim it says, 248 positive commandments come from the 5 attributes of kindness of Zoh of Atzilus. Zoh, remember, refers to the 6 emotions. And the 365 prohibitions are rooted in the 5 attributes of severity of Zoh of Atzilus. Okay, I'm going to try to bring this down to earth shortly. Elsewhere it's written in the Zohar that the commandments are 613 paths, 630 mitzvahs or paths, that derive from one path, Lavnunit, which means the benevolent, pristine whiteness of supernal Keser, of the crown. So beyond emotions, beyond divine emotions, it comes from the crown. In Atik, where the divine will and the divine pleasure come from, where there is no gvura, there is no severity. Okay, so let's take a part over here. We have a compounded contradiction. We stated that the 248 positive commandments stem from the 10 spheres of Zoh, right? Then we say that 248 positive commandments in the Eitz Chaim, that they come from the 5 kindnesses, the attribute of kindnesses of Zoh. In other words, not from the 6 emotions, but specifically the 5 kindnesses of Zoh, of kindnesses. So it's like more honed in, as opposed to from all 6 emotions. 6 emotions: Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, kindness, severity, beauty / compassion, endurance, triumph, acknowledgement, humility, foundation, connectivity. Right? Those are the 6 emotions. Explaining them, we're not going to do that now. We've done that in previous teachings, right? So do mitzvahs come from the 6 emotions, or do they come from specifically the emotion of kindness? The positive commandments come especially from the 5 qualities of kindness, and the negative commandments, meaning the don't do, the prohibitions, stem from the 5 severities, the attribute severities. And then again, in the Zohar, it says that the mitzvahs, the commandments, derive from the lavnunis, the whiteness, the purity, right, as it were, of supernal Keser, of the crown, in a place where severity doesn't exist. I hope I expressed that clearly. 3 different ways. Again, do commandments come from divine emotions, in general, the 6 of them, as a collective? Or does it come specifically, the 248 positive commandments come specifically from the 5 components of kindness that relate to the six emotions. And the prohibitions of the Torah, the 365 prohibitions, come specifically from the severity, the 5 components of severity that stem from the 6 emotions? Or does it come from Keser, from the crown, where there is no severity there? So the explanation: all mitzvahs are ultimately there to rectify the 248 organs of Zoh, drawing the infinite Ein Sof light into the divine intellect, as they are incorporated within the 5 attributes of kindness and 5 attributes of severity. So, let me explain. So, in a human, you have beyond intelligence, will that is motivated by pleasure. So you have divine. Well, we'll take it in human first. That then comes into the intelligence of the person, gives them a perspective as a result, and from that perspective, it then leads. The intelligence then has a perspective, and the decision is commonly swayed by the leanings that we have of kindness or severity. The natural leaning that we might have. Okay, that's the way it is in us. So, in the divine level, what does that mean? There's a divine will of God that is his divine, motivated by his divine pleasure, that he has a will. That will is pure, unadulterated, has no negative force there. It is the pure will of God. That then comes down that divine will then comes, that infinite light, through into the divine intellect, that then is to draw into the divine emotions and to bring a repair to the 248 organs of Zoh, of divine emotions. Let me try to
Can I add something, Rabbi?
Sure. Go ahead, Vilma.
So, as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the desire and the will, which is divine, is separate from our desire and will, which is human. You're saying that the divine desire and will have a correlation of one to the other, and specifically that you just said one is fixing the other?
The divine will is to bring a divine light through the divine intellect in order to bring a repair to the 248 organs or components, aspects of divine emotion, which is Zoh. Zoh are the 6 emotions. So, and how do we fix it? Through the 5 attributes of kindness and the 5 attributes of severity. That's the concept. It's a very ethereal idea. So in other words, there's a divine pleasure that God has that produces a divine will, which means a light that comes from above. That when we do a mitzvah down here, we're bringing a repairing, not only, of course, to this physical world, right? Not just to this physical world and to ourselves, of course, but we're drawing down also and bringing a repair, as it were, to the 248 components of the divine emotions. So in other words, by doing a mitzvah down here, we elicit in that spark that we spoke about sparks earlier, right? That is in a material world, that connects and brings from the divine pleasure, the divine will, which is the Kesser, the crown that's above, that brings a flow of divine light and life by means of the divine into the divine intellect, that brings a repair even into the aspect of the 240 components of the, as it were, the organs of Zoh, which means by doing a mitzvah down here, we're actually not just bringing a light down here, but we're repairing something in the divine order of things, which is pretty powerful idea. For this reason, the Alter Rebbe says that's why Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, had a fervent plea of God that he should be able to go into the Holy Land, so he could do active mitzvahs, physical mitzvahs that are contingent on the land, something like we're learning in Rambam right now, right? They can only be fulfilled in the Holy Land, because the ultimate purpose is to bring that divine light, right, and to refine the vessels of Zoh that are in Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya. In other words, we are rectifying those divine sparks that have fallen into the spiritual worlds and into this physical world, and we're bringing a rectification through it. So we are rectifying not just this world, but all of the spiritual worlds likewise. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu fervently wanted to go into the Holy Land in order to be able to do a physical act of a mitzvah, a simple thing like taking a coin and putting it into a pushka. A simple thing like, on the holiday of Sukkot, making a bracha on lulav and esrei. Simple thing like putting on tefillin, or specifically the laws in the land of Israel, as we're learning now, the laws of Jubilee, the laws of Yovel, the laws of sabbatical year, or as we learned previously in Rambam, reminder today at 1 o'clock, the laws of Truma, Meiser, of tithing, and those things that we need to take from the land and give to the poor and give to the Kohen and to the Levi and so on and so forth. So in other words, it's through the mitzvah that we bring this refinement, this rectification of the vessels of the Zoh of these worlds where the 288 sparks have fallen, and we can extract them and rectify them. That's the idea here. Whew. Okay. Let us go into questions. Any questions, any thoughts, this was pretty heavy stuff. Let me see, please, on Facebook before I lose the feed. Give me a moment. I do see some questions here. Also a reminder, tonight, 6:30, we're going to have our Parsha class, Torah studies, at 6:30, Zoom and Chabad ZK, as every day. Okay, Davida, are prayers answered more if done with a contrite heart? Absolutely. With humility, yes, absolutely. Sometimes God says no. What happens if Hashem doesn't answer your prayers? He might answer your prayers not the way you want, but He's listening. God for sure is listening. That's for sure. The answer might be no. We want a yes, but that doesn't mean we're getting a yes. Does Hashem answer our prayers with chesed or gvura? Hopefully with chesed, but it can be with gvura. Reminder, 2 question marks before you ask a question. Mitzvah can heal spiritually, and prayers can bring light into this world. Yes. John, how does one engage in the process of Birurim in the worlds of Bria and Yetzirah? No, we do it well. When you study Talmud, so Talmud is the divine comprehension as taught in the Talmudic literature of the arguments back and forth. When you're going through the arguments of Talmudic teachings and bringing an elucidation to it, that would be something of the world of Bria. Yetzirah would be the adjudication of Jewish law. Okay. Anybody here have something to share or to ask? Vilma, anything more? Is there anything on? I don't see anything on Instagram.
I want to say thank you for making that very clear. I always knew prayer was supremely powerful, but I think all that you said about mitzvahs and how that changes things spiritually as well as physically, it's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Pleasure. By the way, we're going to continue our discussion on this. We're, of course, not finished. Tomorrow we will continue. We have a few days on this. It's actually a long essay. And I must tell you, it's one of the most, Kabbalistic. But I will try to make it as coherent as possible. God willing. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I think that's it for the moment. All right, folks. Amazing. So, 1 o'clock Rambam, 6:30. We have more. Oh, we have Norm. Please, Norm, come and share.
I just wanted to thank you so much. This is just a wonderful addition to our Sunday, and whenever you do it, it's just beautiful. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Norm. It's so nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Everybody who's here, too. I'm so glad to be doing this together.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, it is a privilege and a pleasure. Absolutely is. And thank you for sharing that sentiment. That is a sentiment, like you say, I'm sure many, if not all, feel. Yeah, thank you. Oh, I see. I do have a question over here. Do block the vessel of the God's blessing that we don't do a mitzvah study Torah? I'm not clear. Do we block the vessel that God's blessings flow through, but not bring mitzvahs or Torah study? Yeah, we can block the blessing. We can have something that is on high, that is intended for us, but we don't make ourselves a vessel that we should be gifted. So, absolutely. So sometimes we can block that which is intended for us. the good that's intended. And of course, sometimes we can change, that there might be something severe intended for us and we can't change that. Or that something severe is happening and that can be changed. We have that power. Yeah. All right. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a good Tavach, a good week, and thank you